2 decades prior to you. So if I'm a voter, what's more important, experience or a fresh approach?
I think that the voters will judge us, and they have the opportunity to judge us. And Chris, I think you just described me when you talked about honesty, integrity, bipartisanship, and working with Democrats. All of my bills, I would say 95 to 97% of my bills, I have a Democrat co-sponsor. As a matter of fact, the EpiPen bill to lower those prices of the prescription drugs and not have these crooks, these monopolies take over is due to my bill. They will fix that and lower the prices of drugs by hundreds of dollars. It's been proven, and I did that with a Democrat. First of all, sir, I passed 9 bills. They're wonderful bills. They affect the people here. Community health centers, reauthorization. If I'm not effective, then the people have a right to vote me out. But I work very hard in the district. I'm here in the district every weekend, I think, and I attend as many events as I possibly can, because as I said, the best ideas come from the people. I take this job, and I haven't had a vacation since 2013, but I love serving my people. And if the people will have me, I'd like to serve another couple of years. Thank you very much.
1 minute.
This member of Congress is a career politician who inherited the seat and still puts his dad's name on the ballot. It is time for a change. Not merely any change, but it is time for a change that results in sending to Congress somebody who will in fact represent the people and not the PACs that fund this incumbent. You know, when you think about what happens to career politicians, this incumbent is exhibit A of somebody who goes off to Washington, forgets who sent him there, and then casts votes with the PACs that give him money. This is a member of Congress who has taken over $2.1 million in special interest PAC money just in the last 3 cycles. A 132% increase in PAC money from the first 3 cycles. That's a leading indicator of somebody who has lost his way, who has forgotten that it is the people to serve, not the DC PACs.
Chris, I'd like to ask, thank you, but I'd like to ask you a question. Where's the majority of your money coming from? In the state of Florida or outside the state of Florida? I'd like to ask you that question. Where is the majority of your money coming from? And I will tell you, these political action committees have they're not relevant, they do not affect my decision. I listen to my constituents, and I did learn from that from my father. And my father was a great role model for us. And again, teaching me the sacrifices of veterans and helping children. Thank you very much. And again, I think it's up to the people to decide.
Thank you, Congressman. Mr. Hunter, you think there needs to be changes to the Affordable Care Act? If so, what would you do to strengthen it? Or repeal it?
This is another example of the deprivation of honest service. Many of us remember when this incumbent had town hall meetings in our district and pretended to listen to what our people were saying were their concerns about health care. And what did he do? He went back to Washington, D.C. and voted for a health care bill that even Donald Trump called mean. A health care bill that would have resulted, had it become law, and thank God it did not, in 66,000 people in our district losing health insurance. It's unacceptable for a representative in Congress to come before you, to listen to you, to try to give you a sense that he actually cares, and then to go off to DC and vote with his Republican cronies who simply want to take the Affordable Care Act down by any means they possibly can. I won't do that. I will work with the Problem Solvers Caucus to fix the flaws in the Affordable Care Act to ensure that health care is extended for people in our community and across our state. There are at least two ways that that can happen immediately, one of which is to have a reinsurance part of the Affordable Care Act that will result in reducing premiums and stabilizing markets. Another is to ensure that the CSR payments are locked in so that similarly insurers can predicate pricing on certainty. That's a solution to a policy problem that will result in reducing premiums and extending coverage. What Gus Bilirakis has done, along with the rest of them, is try to take the Affordable Care Act down and take health care away from us. That's not okay.
I pledge to my constituents, and even those town hall meetings, Chris, that you're referring to, that I would vote for repealing the Affordable Care Act, okay? Because people don't have, under this act, people don't have access to health care. Most people do not, and it's very, very expensive. There's no competition. The providers are pulling out. It's simply not the answer. Now, I want to work, as I have in the past, on health care issues with Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. I have an advisory council committee as well, locally, because the best ideas come from the people to fix it. And I want pre-existing conditions to be included. I want mental health care, substance abuse. We can do it if we work together. And I have a history of working together. But the Affordable Health Care Act, known as Obamacare, is simply not the answer. Thank you.
Who remembers when this member of Congress said to those of us in this district that the death panels are real? Yes. You know, when members of Congress are sent forth into their district with a set of political talking points, and then they spew those talking points and go back to DC and vote against the wishes of the people, that's the sort of thing that, again, should cause each and every one of us to say, no more. No more.
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I forgot whose question was, Congressman. Thank you. Congressman, you have been a loyal public supporter of President Donald Trump. And the website 538.com, they tracked more than 90 votes since January of 2017 and found you in agreement with the president's position 97.8% of the time. Can you give us an example in which you have disagreed with the president on a particular issue and why you disagreed with the White House?
Yes, I disagree with him currently on the VA with regard to the Blue Water Navy veterans. We passed a bill, the House of Representatives, I was one of the leaders in that, to make sure that our Blue Water Navy veterans who served in Vietnam, that they get the presumptive status automatically. They definitely earned it. They were exposed to Agent Orange, okay? We passed it out of committee. We passed it off the floor of the House of Representatives unanimously. There's an example, Chris, of how I work with the Democrats. It went to the Senate. It's being stalled in the Senate. The VA secretary says he's not supporting it. We're going to get it done. And I've talked to the chairman of the committee. I've talked to the Democrats on the committee. We're going to push the United States Senate to get it done and advise the president to definitely vote for it. I can give you other examples as well. Offshore oil drilling. I do not agree with drilling off the coast of Florida. So again, many examples that I voted against the president, but I will tell you this, the economy is going well, and I agree with his policy, the good regulations, to have small businesses grow and innovate and create jobs for our people. 3.89% unemployment rate, that's unheard of. 3.8 in Florida, 4.2 GDP growth. And they're expecting it to be 4.6 in the fourth quarter. That's great stuff. The tax bill was terrific. So again, his style, not so much, because I wasn't brought up that way. But the policies, in most cases, yes, and I will stand up to the president when my constituents tell me that he's wrong and I feel he's wrong.
Mr. Hunter? I almost wonder if I should say, is there one you agree with President Trump, but I won't.
Gus is the consummate yes man. We should not have yes men in Congress. Congress is a separate and co-equal branch of government. He is a yes man by word, by deed, by act, by omission. Of all the possible things that he could come up with that he disagrees with Donald Trump on, the only thing he could come up with is a particular piece of legislation. How about this? How about just fundamental right and wrong? That's what's on the ballot in November. Right and wrong. It is not acceptable for the President of the United States to engage in the conduct that he engages in, to speak the way that he does, to treat others the way that he does. How about we start with basic right and wrong? I oppose every single thing that he does when it is objectively wrong, and when I'm in Congress, I will make sure that the Congress opposes those things that are wrong, and we will stand up for those things that are right.
Point right out. But I wouldn't call a veterans issue. I wouldn't call a veterans issue that I alluded to. These Blue Water Navy veterans are heroes, not an important issue. I will stand up for our veterans anytime, anywhere, any day. And Chris, I think quite a few of our constituents agree with the president's policies. Whether they like him or not, they want more jobs. They want the economy to improve. I've got to stop. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hunter. The congressman just mentioned that he opposed the White House reversing itself when they tried to weaken the ban on offshore drilling. I actually had that on my list. But in 2017, the League of Conservation Voters gave the congressman a score of 0 and a lifetime rating of just 8%. So speak to those critics who believe the incumbent has not done a good enough job making the environment a top concern.
Gus Bilirakis has voted against environmental protection and public health time. This is time and time again. Time and time again. He has an anti-environment, anti-public health voting record in every single way. Just during this Congress, he has voted against our environment 71 times. You know, that's part of what I think is so important for people in our district to realize. It is time to hold him accountable. No longer can he come back into the district and just say whatever it is he wants and get away with it. He has an anti-environment voting record that is something that we should all be aware of and then choose to vote on. I'm thankful to have been endorsed by the Sierra Club. I'm thankful to have been endorsed by former EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy. I'm thankful to have been endorsed by the League of Conservation Voters. Why? Because I believe in protecting our water, air, and land. I will prioritize those values in Congress. Those aren't partisan values. Those are values that each and every one of us cares deeply about in our district and throughout the state of Florida. It is about time that we have somebody in Congress who votes our values and doesn't vote against them like he has done year after year after year.
Congressman, how do you answer your critics?
Thank you. Yeah, CT, again, thank you for moderating this event, and I want to thank the chamber. But as far as the values, the people will judge, Chris. The voters will judge one way or the other how they feel. But I feel like I've been a great voice in Washington representing their values and their philosophy. I'm against offshore oil drilling because it's going to hurt the environment. I see this algae bloom. This red tide that's going on. We're going to solve that issue when I get back next week as far as funding is concerned, to clean it up. Well, that's okay, you can laugh, but it's true. It's gonna be in the budget bill. We're gonna bring money specifically to Florida. I've advocated for, so we can solve, we need a reservoir, where the Okeechobee River is to get the overflow, so it doesn't affect other parts of the state. And as far as the environment, I'm co-chair of the Travel and Tourism Caucus, okay? We need tourism, it's our #1 industry, okay? So I'm against offshore oil drilling, and I have a pro-environmental record, according to others. So, again, let the voters judge. But
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. Okay, I've got to ask the audience to simmer down. Mr. Hunter, 30 seconds.
It's extraordinary that he has the audacity to stand up here and say those things when he has taken money from the sugar industry, when he voted just this past spring to eviscerate the clean water rule. The voters will judge, and they will judge on a voting record, not on spin, not on messaging, on a voting record. Gus Bilirakis' voting record is anti-environment, anti-public health. You don't have to take my word for it. Simply look at the evidence.
Thank you. Tom? Rid of 3, okay. Congressman, I'm going to have to ask you to comment on the news of the day. But in light of the recent allegations of a teenage sexual assault attempt by Judge Kavanaugh, do you support him as President Trump's nominee to the U.S. Supreme Court?
I would tell you that, again, the Senate will do its job. I'm sure they're going to open up the hearings and the questions will be answered. But aside from that, because I don't have any personal knowledge, only what's being reported in the media, I think he's an excellent candidate to serve on the Supreme Court. However, we need to hear the allegations, and the Senate committee will judge based on those allegations, and I'll be watching closely. And there also will be a vote on in the entire Senate. But again, I have to look into those allegations deeply. Aside from that, up until those allegations, I think he was approved unanimously by the Senate for the District Court of Appeals. So again, we'll see, and I'll be listening to the evidence.
It's a question, Mr. Hunter.
Right and wrong is on the ballot, and this is another example. Gus and I don't have the ability in Congress to vote on judges. But I can tell you this, if I was a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I would not allow Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to go forward from the committee. If I was a United States Senator, I would vote against Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. This is a lifetime appointment. And when we have the issues surfacing that have surfaced, we need to find somebody who is more suitable for the United States Supreme Court. And Brett Kavanaugh is not.
The prosecutor, you're an officer of the court. Don't you give the person an opportunity, due process, an opportunity to respond to those allegations? Now, I'm very surprised that you feel that way. But again, let's hear the testimony, and we'll pass judgment based on after the questions are asked and based on the testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, these are the last 2 questions. You're both going to get the same question. And it's going to give you an opportunity to talk to each other. So, Mr. Hunter, what is the one question you'd like to ask your opponent this evening and have him answer here in this candidate forum?
Gus, why have you not denounced Donald Trump's attacks on the United States Department of Justice, the FBI, the rule of law, decency, honesty, and civility? Why have you been complicit in all of the attacks and the assaults he has made on the free press? Why have you sat silent ever since Donald Trump's presidency has begun while he has wreaked havoc? And I've had to have conversations with my children that as a father I never thought I would have to have. You are a member of Congress. Why have you been so silent and complicit in behavior that you yourself wouldn't tolerate out of your own kids?
You know as well as I do, we have oversight committees. There hasn't been any collusion found, by the way. And I'm sure I feel there hasn't been any collusion found. We have a special prosecutor. Let him do his job, Chris. Let him do his job. I'm going to focus on what I can do for my constituents. Again, reducing drug costs, okay, for our constituents. Community health centers, bringing down funding for substance abuse. So very important to our constituents. Solving this flood insurance issue like I did a few years ago after a town meeting here in Newport Richmond. And working with the other side to get things done. So again, health care, the therapy cap, mental health care for our veterans, our true American heroes. This is the stuff that I focus on, and I think the founders intended us to focus on the issues and listen to our constituents.
Thank you. Congressman?
Yes.
You now have the opportunity to ask Mr. Hunter. What's the one question you'd like to ask him this evening and have him answer here in a public forum?
Well, Chris, if you were elected to Congress, would you vote for raising taxes on our constituents and impeding this economic growth that's taking place? Who would you vote for Speaker if you're not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi? Because apparently you're not voting for Nancy Pelosi. Who would that be? Can you answer that question, please? There are two questions, so pick your choice. Whichever one you want is fine with me.
I'll answer them both. And you know, it's interesting, Gus knows the answer to that, but that didn't stop him or somebody else from doing a false push poll prior to the primary, suggesting that my view on who the next speaker should be is different than what that false push poll was disseminating in our community. That is part of what I think turns people off from politics. When politicians who want to cling to power try to push false information into the community, that is a perfect example of why we have to have a change starting right here in the 12th Congressional District. I will not support Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. I've been crystal clear on that all along. You know, once we have a different set of people... Gus, I have no idea who will be running for Speaker. The only thing I do know is that we need to have a new generation of leaders from both parties, because under the Republican Congress, there has been ethical scandal after ethical scandal after ethical scandal.
Okay.
It is time for a change.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. I want to thank you both for a robust debate. It was very enlightening. And we're now moving to closing statements. Mr. Hunter, you have 2 minutes.
Gus Bilirakis is the Vice Chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. It is his responsibility to exercise oversight of the VA. When he was confronted with specific, credible, evidence-based allegations of corruption inside the VA by Mar-a-Lago millionaires, he turned and looked the other way. That is not acceptable out of our member of Congress, especially one who tries to claim that he supports veterans. You know, my uncle served in World War II as a fighter pilot, in the Korean War, and volunteered to go to Vietnam. My father is a Marine. I served as an FBI agent after 9/11 as a federal prosecutor, and as a federal prosecutor, I prosecuted fraud against the TRICARE program to protect health care for military families. I actually have real results standing up for our military families, standing up for the health care they depend on, and it is about time that we have people in Congress who will do that, who will stand up for what is right and against what is wrong. I would welcome your support as we go forward in this campaign. Let's make a change in November. Let's send to Congress somebody who believes in honest American service, who will demonstrate in Congress the sort of leadership each and every one of you should come to expect out of a United States representative. I would appreciate your support. Thank you, CP.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for your service to our country. And it's a great thing that you're running for public office because it's a tremendous sacrifice. I will tell you that he's referring as far as this so-called scandal, and we'll look into it in Congress. But when the VA secretary came down, I discussed two things with him because I didn't have a lot of time. When are we going to get this West Pasco clinic online for our true American heroes, our veterans? He came back and told me that we will hear by the end of the month. There will be a location selected, and we're going to get going because we need services, more services here in the community. Consolidated clinic and make it almost 3 times what it is now, so you don't have to drive down to Haley for every little thing. And I also talked to him about the burn pit legislation. Our heroes are being affected in Iraq and Afghanistan. These are the things that I'm talking about. Chris, again, 9 bills passed. I'm effective. As a matter of fact, they tell me that I'm the most prolific legislator in Congress. I don't know if that's true, but I know it's close to being true. Accessibility. I come home every weekend. I love my constituents. They're my friends. I treat them like my friends. This is not an entitlement, ladies and gentlemen. I want to earn your support, and I believe I have earned your support in the last 6 elections. So, again, let's work together. I'm not sexy. My wife doesn't even think I'm sexy. But I'm a doer. I'm a doer. I'm not a show horse, but I am a workhorse, and I work for you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.